Paris, in the summer of 1789, was a city simmering with tension. France was in a deep economic crisis. The king, Louis XVI, seemed unable to solve the problems. People were hungry, they were angry. The Estates General, a meeting called to address these issues, had descended into chaos. Rumors and whispers filled the streets. Change was in the air, but what kind of change? Fear and uncertainty gripped the city. The Bastille, a symbol of royal power, loomed over the city. It was a stark reminder of the king's authority. The French Revolution, a period of radical social and political upheaval, was about to erupt. The storming of the Bastille on July 14th, 1789, was a pivotal moment in this revolution. It marked a turning point, forever altering the course of French history. This event was a culmination of years of social unrest, economic woes, and political tensions. It was a day that would live on in infamy, a symbol of the people's power to challenge and overthrow oppressive rule. The Bastille was a fortress, a prison. It stood on the edge of Paris. It had once protected the city. Now it represented the king's authority. The Bastille held political prisoners. These were people who spoke against the king. They were often imprisoned without a trial. For the people of Paris, the Bastille was a symbol of tyranny. It represented the king's absolute power. The sight of its imposing walls filled them with fear and resentment. The storming of the Bastille wasn't just about the prisoners inside. It was about what the Bastille represented. It was about the people taking a stand. It was about saying no to tyranny. The events of that day would send shockwaves throughout France and across Europe. The storming of the Bastille became a symbol of revolution. It showed the world the power of the people. France was in a state of crisis. Years of economic mismanagement and extravagant spending by the monarchy had left the country on the brink of bankruptcy. The French social system, with its rigid hierarchy and unequal distribution of power and wealth, further aggravated the situation. The common people, burdened by heavy taxes and limited rights, faced severe hardship. The American Revolution, with its ideals of liberty and equality, had inspired many in France. The French people, witnessing the success of the American colonists in overthrowing British rule, began to question their own system. The Estates General, a traditional assembly representing the three estates of French society, the clergy, the nobility, and the commoners, was convened in May 1789 to address the financial crisis. However, the deep divisions within French society quickly became apparent. The Third Estate, representing the overwhelming majority of the population, demanded greater representation and a fairer system. When their demands were ignored, they took the radical step of forming the National Assembly, declaring themselves the true representatives of the French people. On the morning of July 14, 1789, tension in Paris reached a fever pitch. Rumors spread like wildfire through the city. People were afraid. They feared the king would use force against the National Assembly. They needed weapons to defend themselves. A large crowd gathered outside the Hôtel des Invalides, a military hospital. They seized muskets and cannons, but they needed gunpowder. The Bastille, it was rumored, held a large store of gunpowder. Thousands of people marched on the Bastille. They demanded the surrender of the prison and its gunpowder. The governor of the Bastille, Marquis de Launay, refused. He was a man of the old order. He believed in the king's absolute authority. Negotiations began, but tensions were high. Shots rang out, the crowd surged forward. The Bastille was stormed. Revolutionary citizen, we couldn't wait any longer. The Bastille had to fall. It was a symbol of all that oppressed us. We were ready to fight, ready to die if necessary to claim our freedom. The storming of the Bastille was not just an act of rebellion, it was a powerful statement. The people of Paris had risen up. They had taken a stand against tyranny. The revolution had truly begun. The battle for the Bastille raged for hours. The crowd, fueled by anger and desperation, fought bravely against the heavily armed guards.
Finally, the Bastille fell. The governor, Marquis de Launay, was captured and killed.
The capture of the Bastille was more than a military victory. It was a symbolic victory over tyranny. The people had challenged the king's authority and won.
The fall of the Bastille sent a powerful message throughout France and beyond. It showed the world the power of the people united against oppression.
It was a testament to the courage of ordinary men and women who dared to fight for their freedom. The storming of the Bastille would become a potent symbol of the French Revolution, inspiring hope for change and igniting revolutionary fervor across France and throughout Europe. The storming of the Bastille left Paris in a state of confusion and euphoria. The people had won a great victory, but the city was in turmoil. Looting and violence broke out in some areas.
The capture of the Bastille had been a chaotic and bloody affair. The crowd, fearing retribution from the king's forces, remained on edge. The atmosphere was tense, a mix of jubilation and fear.
In the aftermath of the storming, the people of Paris began to organize themselves. A new municipal government, the Commune of Paris, was formed. This new government, made up of revolutionary leaders, quickly asserted its authority.
Militias were formed to maintain order and defend the city against potential counter-revolutionary attacks.
The French Revolution was gaining momentum, and the balance of power was shifting away from the monarchy and towards the people. The king's reaction and the spread of fear. News of the fall of the Bastille reached King Louis XVI at his palace in Versailles.
I was shocked. I had underestimated the anger of the people. I had underestimated the power of the revolution.
The king's advisors were divided. Some urged him to crush the rebellion with force. Others advised caution. The king hesitated. The king's initial inaction had a profound effect. It fueled the flames of revolution. Fear spread throughout the countryside. Rumors of aristocratic plots and peasant uprisings created an atmosphere of panic. This period, known as the Great Fear, led to widespread violence and unrest. The French Revolution was no longer confined to Paris. It was spreading throughout the nation, challenging the very foundations of the old order. And the rise of popular sovereignty. The storming of the Bastille marked a turning point in the French Revolution. It wasn't just about the fall of a prison, it was about the rise of popular sovereignty. The people had shown they were willing to fight for their rights. They had challenged the absolute authority of the king. The National Assembly, emboldened by the events in Paris, continued its work. It abolished feudalism. It issued the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. This document proclaimed the fundamental rights of all citizens. It was a radical departure from the old order. The French Revolution was entering a new phase. It was a phase driven by the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The Great Fear and its consequences. The Great Fear that swept through the French countryside in the summer of 1789 was a direct consequence of the storming of the Bastille. The fall of the Bastille had ignited the flames of revolution. It had unleashed a wave of fear and uncertainty. Peasants, fearing attacks by bandits or retribution from their feudal lords, armed themselves. They rose up against their oppressors. The Great Fear, while chaotic and violent, had a profound impact on the course of the French Revolution. It forced the National Assembly to address the grievances of the peasantry. It led to the abolition of feudalism on August 4, 1789. This was a pivotal moment in the revolution. It marked the end of the old order. It paved the way for a more just and equitable society. Conclusion. A turning point. The storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789, was a turning point in the French Revolution. It marked the end of the absolute monarchy. It ushered in an era of popular sovereignty. The fall of the Bastille was a powerful symbol of the people's will to overthrow tyranny. It inspired hope for change not only in France but throughout Europe. The French Revolution was a complex and multifaceted event. It was a period of great upheaval and change. The storming of the Bastille was a pivotal moment in this revolution. The events of that day continue to resonate today. They remind us of the power of the people to fight for their rights. They remind us that even the most entrenched systems of power can be overthrown. Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité. We wish the French people a happy 14th of July, and don't forget to subscribe our channel below.